ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday I did a podcast and I did a video on how badly mentally ill Maurice Hill really was. You had the mass shooters that killed people. People are dead. And they were all labeled mentally ill. Maurice Hill didn't kill anybody. They were injured but not killed. He's mentally ill. And see, whenever you get these stories, the media only goes by the police account of what happened. They never, ever, ever listen to the people that stood around and witnessed it. We've seen this in Ferguson. We've seen this with Eric Garner. We've seen it with Tamir Rice. It's only the police side of things that the mainstream media is concerned about. According to your standards of what you were saying all last week about the 3 mass shooters, Maurice would fit into that category of mentally ill. That's why I'm going to keep saying he's mentally ill, because he falls under that category. He got a criminal record because he's mentally ill. We are mentally ill from being in this society. We're all mentally ill. Look at all the things that we can't sell water. We can't barbecue in the park. We can't play in a park. We can't go in a store without being accused of stealing. You can't go into a bank and cash a check without them thinking the check is fraudulent. We've been kicked out of restaurants. Recently, kids were going around trying to raise funds for their football team, and some woman comes out the house and put a gun on 4 kids just trying to raise funds. We can't seem to do anything in this society, so that by default we are mentally ill. You talk about the land of the free. Free for who? Who is it free for? So yeah, we're all mentally ill because this society, your mainstream media, your policies have made us that way. So we gonna ride out the mental illness wave just like everybody else up in here. Maurice Hill is mentally ill. So now, ladies and gentlemen, today they are attacking the crowd in the mainstream media. All right, so let's get into this story, y'all. A shootout, and this is Newsweek, and this came out yesterday on the 15th of August. Philadelphia shooting, crowd taunted, laughed, and yelled at police officers while under gunfire. Report. Now, they are trying to imply it was this title. Just look at the title and look at the title of the other mainstream articles. They are implying that everybody up in that crowd was doing this. This is what they want you to believe when you read the title. But let's get into the story. A shootout and standoff in the Philadelphia neighborhood of Nicetown, Tioga, on Wednesday left 6 police officers injured with gunshot wounds. Not killed, like the people last week in the mass shootings. Not killed, injured. So they get to live another day and go home to their families, right? But the people that are dead last week from the mass shootings, they're going to the grave. They're going to the boneyard. A crowd of people had gathered to watch the incident, but a handful of individuals taunted, laughed, and yelled at police who were facing gunfire. Now, why did you title the article like this and it was just a handful of people that did this. So let me repeat your words. So you're going to condemn a whole group of people over what a few people did? Isn't that what y'all say all the time? That we shouldn't do? Well, this is what I'm telling you that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't condemn a whole crowd, a whole group of people over a few people in the crowd doing this. This was just a few people, okay? This was not the whole community. It was a few. But you titled it to make it seem like everybody in the crowd was doing this. A few. Did you see this? It was a few individuals. Okay? In fact, they didn't even use few. They said handful, right? You got only 5 fingers on one hand, right? So it was probably about 5 individuals or less. But they're trying to condemn the whole neighborhood, the whole group, over a handful of people, y'all. Don't they tell us that's wrong when we do that? Okay, well, it got to be wrong when they're doing it. Plain and simple. ADOS, reparations now. Okay, let's get into this. I mentioned this at 10, and since I was harassed during the live shot, I mentioned it here too. Hoff posted on Twitter. A major moment of disappointment this evening was watching a crowd of people taunt police officers, laugh, and yell at them in the midst of gunfire. Wait a minute. You said it was a handful of people. And then on the next sentence, you tried to make it seem like it was the entire crowd. Now, which one is it? Was it the whole crowd, or was it, as you put it, a handful of people? See, ladies and gentlemen, you see how they play the word salad game here? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So I see one woman with a red shirt on talking to a cop, right? And I see the other people just standing around. They're not even looking at the cop. It's just her talking to the cop. That's it. Okay? So they go from saying it's a handful of people, then they say the crowd, and you see how they're trying to play this psychological word game on everybody? That's all this article is. This is what the mainstream news is putting out today. A video has also emerged which was allegedly captured at the scene. It shows a crowd of people harassing and throwing objects at a group of officers. Well, by default, we are all mentally ill. We've had mental illness since the time of chattel slavery, and it's been passed down all through the generations, and that mental illness still shows up on us today because of all the trauma that we have gone through. So what you looked at was trauma. And I would like to see how these same cops that are making these accusations, how are they treating this community? That's what I want to know. What's the history of how these cops treat the community? I don't want to hear nothing about how cops were treated. How did they treat this community on a regular basis? The mainstream media did not write anything about that. They didn't write anything about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a clip, a van belonging to Precious Babies Learning Academy Daycare Center was one of which is located near the house of the suspect. In the Nicetown, Tioga neighborhood can be seen several children who were attending this center, as well as those at Shake, Rattle, and Roll Learning Center were evacuated to safety during the shootout. CBS 3 reported. And see, listen to this. Newsweek has contacted the Philadelphia Police Department to seek confirmation that its officers were harassed during the incident. They didn't talk to the crowd. The media in America only talk to cops. Just understand that whenever any incident goes down and it's predominantly black people in a community are around, they only go to the cops and get their account of what happened. So, Newsweek, did you talk to the crowd to find out what happened, or you just went to the police? So, automatically, your piece is completely biased because it only shows one side of what happened out there and not both sides. It's very skewed in one direction. But this is how the media does things in this country. Everything they do is completely skewed and it's biased and it only goes in one direction. The 8-hour standoff began around 4:30 p.m. when officers tried to serve a narcotics warrant at the house in North Philadelphia, only to be met by a barrage of gunfire upon entering the property. The officers became trapped in the house for hours before being freed by SWAT team members, CBS News reported. 6 officers were shot during one suffered a graze wound to the head. Okay, a graze, it's a big difference between a graze and a bullet going through your head. Big difference. All the injured were eventually released from the hospital by Wednesday night after receiving treatment at hospital, according to Philadelphia police. So nobody was so badly injured, including the person that was grazed in the head. They weren't so badly injured that they had to stay in the hospital. They were all released and free to go home. Unlike the people from the mass shooting, they are being funeralized and placed in graves. So even the police commissioner, he says it's nothing short of a miracle that we don't have multiple officers killed today. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross Jr. said Wednesday night in a statement. So he was happy that his officers all survived. No one was killed. Nobody was killed. In America, they have a written rule: you don't get killed unless you're unarmed. If you're unarmed, you get killed. That's how you're dealt with in this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, you compare the two. A mentally ill man shot officers. They all were released from the hospital and free to go home. Mass shooters killed people last week, and those people are going straight to the graveyard. Tell me which one had the better outcome. And I don't believe Newsweek should phrase an article in a manner in which a handful of people in a crowd taunted a few officers and you're trying to blame the whole group for what happened. Again, you should not blame a whole group for what a few people do. It was just a few people in the crowd that were sick and mentally ill and did those things. So why are you trying to condemn all of us for what a few people did? In articles said handful of people did it. So why are you trying to blame everybody for what a few people did? Ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.